like to call the May 2nd, 2022 Board of Supervisors Workshop to order. Mr. McClung, if you would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Cox, if you do the invocation, would be great.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for another wonderful day in Powhatan. Be with us as we go through the evening and take care of our families. Amen.
Amen. Okay, do we have any requests? Postpone agenda items, additions, deletions, or changes in the order of presentation? Not hearing any. We get a formal approval for the agenda. Motion.
So moved.
Need a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. All opposed? County Administrator updates.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'd like first to introduce a new member of our staff who started day one today. Mr. Will Hagee is sitting down with our team in the corner. Will, if you could stand up and everybody, Will's be taking over our public works, public utilities, recreation area, the Ramona's old portfolio. Ramona left us April 1, and he'll also be doing as many special projects as I can pass his way. So I'm looking forward to you being here, Will. Welcome.
Welcome.
And that's all my county administrator comments, sir.
Okay. Public comments? We're open to hear public comments. You have 3 minutes as an individual. If you're representing a group, you have up to 5 minutes. Please state your name and address.
You wait for him to get the timer all right. You're good.
Good evening. My name is Steve Jenkins. I live at 1163 Bradbury Road. I wanted to come by this evening just to share a few comments with you. Number one, about the tax rate. And when the board initially made the decision to vote for a 79-cent tax rate, one of the goals was to keep that rate in place for the foreseeable future. Well, there's no way you could have foreseen that core inflation would be 6.5%, which doesn't even include food and energy. The gasoline prices have essentially doubled. Diesel fuel prices have more than doubled. Food prices are skyrocketing, and food inventories have been reduced, and some items aren't even available. With housing inflation, Powhatan stated in their public hearing notice that assessed values are up 10.4%, which means with no changes, we will pay the county more in this challenging economic environment. And as a result of the current economic environment, we're all having to significantly tighten our belts just to get to the end of the month. We're driving less, we're going out to dinner less, we're buying less, but we're paying more, and it's painful. In your last budget, meaning last year, there was a request for 25 new positions, and the board approved 15 of those positions. This year's budget is asking for an additional 9 positions, as well as funding for some non-essential projects. I want to speak tonight just to share the message that I believe your budget is sending to the citizens of Powhatan. And that message goes something like this. Hey guys, we know you're struggling in this economic environment, but we don't really care. We're still planning to raise your taxes because we want to add more employees, buy land, and build a senior center. Now that message might not be exactly right, but for me, that message is the message the budget is sending isn't the right message for Powhatan County based on the current economic conditions. It sure would be nice to see the Powhatan budget reflect a tightening of their belt, just like we're tightening ours. In the last Board of Supervisors meeting, a supervisor said, we were supposed to be the dream team. And it made me wonder, what would my dream team government look like? It would not be a government that raises taxes in an economic environment when it doesn't have to. It would not be a government who allocates $500,000 for a senior center in this economic environment when we already have a YMCA, a library, and numerous local churches who serve our senior population. And it would not be a government adding 9 additional positions in this economic environment. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, my name is Fran Carlton. 2219 Rawson Road. I'm here tonight requesting an information review and update on the Village Park. I live in the village, or more like the outskirts on Rawson Road, and I walk frequently by the village. I know from the November 22nd meeting that the resolution for the park was passed and money for the park would come out of the Capital Projects Fund. The amount was $50,000 to come from the operating budget of 2022. The Parks and Rec Commission was strongly encouraged to pursue grants if additional funds for the project was needed. And upon completion, it would cost about $800 a year for maintenance. So I went to the website to the Parks and Rec Advisory Commission minutes from January 11th. Since the Board of Supervisors agreed to allocate $50,000 from the capital reserves to fund the park, the commissioners agreed that since the project, the park, is already funded, that the project has not been included in the CIP and that it would not pursue grants and funds for this project. It was also mentioned by Mrs. Cormack that the possibility of using solar farm proffers might be able to fund some of this. So with that, there are rumors in the county. There are rumors in the county that this half-acre park is costing upward to $150,000. I spoke to Mr. Smither on Friday and asked him my question, and he assured me the rumors were not true, and he was to get back to me today. Phones being what they are, and I was in the western end of the county, I just listened to his voicemail. And as I came in, he handed me an updated version of the park and what it's to look like. So that's fine and dandy, but I think here is what we need. We need a review and report on how the park is coming along. Like, how much is this park actually costing Powhatan County? And where is this money coming from? Is it coming from our surplus, otherwise known as savings? So that is my strong suggestion, that we do a review of this park and give an update to the taxpayers of Powhatan County, so at least we can squelch these rumors. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening, David Barron, 3492 Richards Run. I'm not gonna do what I normally do, which is complain, fuss, and get people upset. Because I'm beyond being mad, pissed off, and disgusted. I'm actually embarrassed and ashamed what's going on in this county right now. Our supposed tax rate. Let's take a little trip down memory lane. Mr. Biley run saying he was going to run as a fiscal conservative, and that he would not raise taxes until we, I'm paraphrasing, got rid of the waste and looked for the waste. I don't know what Ms. Carmack run on that. I didn't have time to research that. I know Mr. McClung run pretty much on the same platform. Talked to Mr. McClung today and thanked him for last week's vote, and hopefully he will look at this one very, very seriously and say he was concerned about for fire, police, and rescue, which we all are. We don't want to see them take a cut, by no means. They don't have to take a cut. I'm not a financial wizard. I'm not a guru on budgets. I keep mine in line. And to tighten my budget like everybody else. Like that gentleman said, what the county is portraying is no financial responsibility. I can find you some money very quickly to cut. I think we're appropriating, and if I'm wrong, correct me, I think somewhere around $1 million to purchase property, up and down 60 for future development. We just had an employee, I don't know if she's still with us or not, Ms. Prince. I would assume her salary is 90 plus benefits, 100 some. I don't know if she's still here or not. I haven't researched that. If she's not, there's more savings. And then we heard here a couple meetings ago that we're so fortunate to have a financial wizard running our county. Let me repeat that, a financial genius running our county. You know, the only thing I've seen that can get as many mistakes and get things wrong is the weatherman and still keep a job. I'm sorry. And this is nothing personal. If I made as many mistakes as been made by the county administrator this year, and the things we've seen, especially at the last week, something's wrong. There's another couple $100,000. That's $1.3 million right there we can save. And it's nothing personal. Mr. Smithers might be the nicest guy in the world. As he asked me when we had a meeting here a while back, did I dislike him? No, I don't. But y'all need to get rid of the county administrator. We can run better on our own than what we're doing right now. Thank you very much. And please cut our tax rate.
Thank you, sir.
How you doing? My name's Charlie Pratt. I live in District 5, 5500 Swan Road. And most of you guys know I'm not a big fan of ever expanding government. I started out life in Arlington County, moved to Fairfax County, moved to Stafford County. Are you starting to see the pattern here? And in each case, those counties became less than they had been when I initially lived there. The standard of living went down. The traffic went up. The expense went up. But my life didn't get any better there. Just got worse as government grew and grew and grew. I'm of the opinion that government legislators have two fundamental powers. They can spend my money in ways I wouldn't. And they can find new things I can't do. Because they can't give me anything I didn't have when I came down to shoot and bounced off the cold table. I think the government that governs best is the government that governs least. And one of the things I'd very much like to see is a system implemented in the county whereby in order to spend money, you have to go through a hierarchically organized, and it should follow the org chart. Everybody with spending authority in the county should have to go through this public system to spend money. That way it's absolutely transparent. Every pencil in the county is accounted for. Every penny of public money is accounted for and is accounted for in real time and in a way that the public can see. And I think that's incumbent on governments, is to be as transparent as possible. That is the essence of good government. I spent about 40 minutes on the phone with a fellow who wants to be a congressman here. And he asked me, he said, you know, Charlie, what would you like to see? I said, well, I've listened to a lot of people who want to serve as a representative for me. And not one of them has walked in and talked about the fact that we have both national and local financial crises, or national and state level and local level financial crises looming. Not one of them has talked about the fact that government seems to want to consume the decisions that previously were left to me about what I do with my money and about what I do with my time. I can't tell you how much time I spend a year dealing with bureaucracy. And things that at my level don't seem to make sense. It seems to me that we have forgotten the most important minority of all, the minority of one. We have most of our government involved in Agenda 21 and Agenda 2030. When you guys unveiled your long-range plan, your 2030 long-range plan, I said, well, have any of you read the international document that required you to write that one? Everybody looked back and forth at one another. But I had a copy of it. It had 19 goals. I don't know why we're participating in this Agenda 2030. It's a mess. If you read it and you flow chart it, it's a companion document. It's the local implementation of the National Agenda 21.
Mr. Pratt, can you wrap it up, please, sir?
Yeah. How do we get a system set up such that we can more fully participate in the expenditures of public money? How do we do that?
Thank you, sir.
You see, this is what I'm talking about. You can't have a discussion. It's you can't even get a question answered.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, my name is Mike Oliver. I'm 4372 Three Bridge Road. I'm here in Powhatan. I'm not here to speak on the tax rate one way or another. I frankly, I could go either way on the tax rate. What I do hope and would expect that there would be thoughtful conversation, thoughtful debate about where that ends up. Again, I don't have a stake in the game one way or another. 5 cents is not a big amount of money. I also hope that and hope that we can have thoughtful debate on items there in the CIP. They include a senior center. They include fixing the concession stand at the softball field. They include upgrades to a bathroom. And Lord knows my age, I appreciate an upgrade on a bathroom. I think we all need to have thoughtful consideration and thoughtful conversation about all those items in a reasonable, respectful way. And I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Anyone on Zoom, Mr. Smither?
Zoom is clear, Mr. Chairman.
Not seeing anyone else. We'll close the public comment period. Go into the public hearings. Mr. Smither?
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. It's great to see such a nice crowd tonight to discuss the proposed tax rate. As you know, we've had some confusion on the process for advertising the equalized tax rate, and we apologize to the board and to the public that our education of the procedures caused confusion to everyone. Tonight, we have a public hearing on the proposed tax rate, but before we start, we need to clear up some of the confusion. The ad we ran in both the Richmond Times-Dispatch and the Powhatan Today referred to an equalized tax rate of 75 cents per $100 of assessed value. That's a tax rate that's 4 cents below the current 79-cent proposed rate. That 4% proposed tax rate was advertised correctly. 4-cent tax increase was advertised correctly. But the first paragraph of the ad referred to a 10.4% growth rate, which represented the combined growth of assessments and new construction. Unfortunately, we should have used the growth rate less in a new construction values, and that number would have been 6%. We told you about a 10.4% increase. That included all assessments. If you take out the new construction, as the code wants us to do, it would have been a 6% increase. So in assessed value. So that confusion is part of what I want to address tonight. And we thought in an effort to get more comments from the public and to make sure that the proper notice was prepared in advance of the public hearing, we're suggesting that a second public hearing, in addition to the one tonight, be held on May 18th. And that we will re-advertise the equalized rate, the 75%, excuse me, the 75% equalized tax rate. We'll advertise the assessment growth net of the new construction. And we'll do that as required by code. With that in mind, we're looking forward to public comments on the tax rate and the public hearing tonight. And if the board prefers, we'll go forward with a second public hearing on May 18th.
Thank you, Mr. Smither. Question or comments from board members of moving to the May 18th date?
Mr. Farland.
Yes, sir, Mr. Cox.
So we're going to stop the meeting tonight and it'll be held on May 18th.
No, we're going to continue with this meeting tonight, but
So,
we're going to have another meeting on May the 18th.
so we have a problem with advertisement, understand that, okay, and understand where it is. And that keeps us from completing this evening. Okay, it says we have to have another one. I just have a question for our council, okay?
Absolutely.
Should we be going, if in fact this is an incorrect notice, should we be going forward this evening, or should we be waiting until May 18th, sir?
You can have a public hearing and take public. You could do that anytime. So it doesn't hurt to properly advertise. So it doesn't have any legal significance.
So we can't reach any real
You
conclusion.
cannot vote on a tax rate tonight.
Okay.
But I think it's a good idea with all of these folks here
No,
to comment.
Understand, I just wanted,
Okay, good.
I'm confused too.
Well, I'm not confused. I just want to make sure that these guys they come out and they have an opportunity to speak and be heard. Anyone else with comments on the board? So would the consensus be, you guys are okay with May the 18th to have a second public hearing to get this corrected?
Mr. Farrell? I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Mr. Cox.
What does that do with the meeting tomorrow night?
We're going to have a meeting tomorrow night. Tomorrow night's the budget.
Understand, but you can't approve a budget without a tax rate approved.
But we've advertised it. We're going to have the meeting.
Okay, so we can't approve the budget tomorrow night either.
But I think we approved the budget on the 10th, I think. Well, still, that's prior to, the budget adoption is on the 10th. But you're correct. Yeah, we can't vote on it tomorrow night,
Okay,
which I don't think was
that-
the intention.
Okay, that's, I'm just trying to
Absolutely.
straighten out the sequence, that's
Oh,
all.
absolutely. Absolutely. Mr. Williams?
I got my question answered. Thank you, Mr. Cox.
So we will now open up the public hearing for the calendar year 2022 real estate tax rate. Anyone in the public that would like to come down and speak, please come forward now.
Harry Markland, 3701 Hope Meadow Road. I just would implore you all to try to trim as much as you can in the budget process so that it's not necessary to raise the taxes. The school board just continually increases. And at some point in time, you have to stop that. We have sheriffs here that need raises. And when the school board is taking up such a large percentage of the revenue, you have to keep the salaries for the other folks so low that it's not reasonable. All of us, 100% of the county residents benefit or have a need for the sheriff or for the fire department. But I understand only about 40% of the families in the county have children that attend the school system. And so that seems like that's an imbalance to me. Let me be clear, I have grandchildren in the school system, and I'm concerned about that. But with the way the school systems are going now, I think you all need to really force them to tighten their belt so that you can keep the tax rate as low as possible for the taxpayers. And also, I've talked to you several times about some ways to cut fraud, waste, and abuse in the county. And if you all think that there's no fraud, waste, and abuse in the county, you're fooling yourselves. You need to think about a process to lessen the fraud, waste, and abuse. And I just want to comment this one last thing. I'm not sure that I really understood this advertisement mistake because y'all have talked about it so many times at the previous meetings. Is this yet another mistake? I mean, I'm at a loss.
I don't have children in the schools here, and I wouldn't put my children in public school. I went over there and talked to the folks. You know, it's interesting. I saw something recently that said 40% of the American people think that Joe Biden is doing a good job. A disproportionate number of those people are in education. Why would you send your children to be educated by people who think Joe Biden is doing a good job? I'm not inclined to give them a raise.
Fran Carlton, 2219 Rawson Road. I'm a little confused too. I'm sorry. So it was advertised for a meeting tonight and tomorrow, but the advertisement was incorrect? Is that, someone shake their heads or whatever? Okay, so tonight really doesn't count. I mean, it does for us to speak, but as far as the process of moving forward with the budget, it's a no, correct? Thank you. So with that said, geez, I don't know what to say, but I hope we get it right. I hope eventually we'll get everything right in the paper so we can move forward and get this budget, because you, not to speak for them, I don't think, but Harry had it right. You're kind of wasting our time. I mean, we do get to speak, but then we get to speak tomorrow night too, if we want to come back, and on the 18th. So I'm hoping that we get it right and the 18th will be a done deal. Thank you very much.
Stevie Barham, 3492 Richards Run, Powhatan, Virginia. I have to stand corrected. It's worse than embarrassing. It's worse than disgusting. It's unbelievable. It is truly unbelievable. I don't know who made this mistake, but we had more mistakes on this one issue. I mean, it makes no sense. I'm sorry. A blind squirrel finds an acorn every once in a while, and we ain't found an acorn yet. I mean, it just, if I run my business like this county is being run right now, you know where I'd be? I'd be out of business. I said I wasn't gonna get mad. I'm doing the best I can. But you know, you can only kick a horse so many times before the possum runs out the behind. That's what we done. We didn't kick that horse so many times right now. It just, like talking about the schools. No, y'all can't tell the school system how to spend the money. There's no doubt about that. That's not your job. But sooner or later, we got to get a board that's going to tell the school system, you're not going to spend like a bunch of drunken sailors coming off a 6-month cruise. That's got to happen. Maybe we got to get another dream team to make that happen. And yes, the police, all of them do need raises. County employees probably need raises. Shoot, I need a raise too. And like I said, I found you 1.3 million. You give me the budget till the 18th, I could probably find you 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 more million with the school budget. But nobody's looking. Nobody's doing that. What do we have staff for? I think the staff does most of them do a pretty darn good job. Oh, you know, we lost our public works person. We got a new guy, wish him the best of luck. I heard the last meeting how we're running off employees. And Mr. Williams was the common denominator. Been here 10 years. Well, 2 of you voted to get rid of the last, or 3 of you 4 of you, 2 of you that got on Mr. Williams voted to get rid of the last county administrator. So, you know, don't be pointing fingers and forget what you done. I agree with what y'all did last time. Maybe you ought to try it again. Y'all have a wonderful night. Maybe I can make it back tomorrow night.
Don't say they're not looking. I mean, they did sublet part of the elementary school, the NAACP.
Steve Jenkins, 1163 Bradbury Road. I'm just sitting here watching this and I'm asking myself, why didn't y'all tell us this before we came up for the first public period? If you knew none of it was gonna matter. And that's a frustration for me. All these people have come out, spent time, effort, myself. I would have more appreciated at the very beginning of the meeting, you guys had said, hey, I need to tell y'all something. We've got a little error here. We're gonna have this meeting again. It's just frustrating. And it's frustration after frustration after frustration. And it's hard. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Cindy Jenkins. I live at 1163 Bradbury Road in Mosley. I'd like to echo Steve Jenkins' comments that we've come out this evening. It feels like for nothing. And there's going to be another meeting tomorrow, which sounds like that will result in nothing. You know, it does take time. I know that you all are sacrificing your time to have these meetings. But it isn't really fair to us as constituents to take time off work, to come here, to make it to a meeting, and then find out this has happened. And I'd like to also point out that I've tried to go out to the Powhatan website to see the proposed budget because I haven't been able to attend all the meetings online. And I know there've been a lot of budget workshops. So I wanted to see what does the budget look like? And I was really surprised that I went out to the website. No easy way, no link to see the proposed budget. So I started one by one going through different workshop meetings, going through the minutes to try to figure out where is the proposed budget. So I did find something. I'm not sure that that's what the proposed budget is right now, because it was earlier, I think, in the month of March. So I would just like to point that out. You know, maybe it is somewhere on the homepage and I just missed it. So if it is, maybe there's a way to make it more apparent. But I was really disappointed that I couldn't find the information. And I'm not available to attend every meeting. And I know you have a lot of budget workshops where you're going through the issues, but it's hard as a constituent to understand what's going on. Thank you.
You have anyone on Zoom, Mr. Smither?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Weir. You can start. You're on mute. Now you're ready. Thank you. Not quite. You're back on mute.
Is that okay?
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the Board of Supervisors. My name is Debbie Weir, 1501 Page Road. After hearing what I just heard earlier, I kind of had to add something to my normal thing was, in light of the misdone advertisement, I know y'all can't answer, but how is that really got incorrect advertisement now going to affect getting the bills out on time? Because that was one of the key things when y'all were talking about having the advertising in May 2nd in the Times Dispatch, et cetera, was you needed to get the bills out on time. And now that you're not going to be approving anything till closer to the 18th, that's well past when y'all were going to get bills out, so to speak, from the county. I would also like to speak to the idea about not keeping the tax rate constant, but continuing to adjust it in step with the annual assessments. A constant rate may work in localities that want to have more funds on hand that are actually needed to run particular localities. We are different in Powhatan in that we look at the county's actual needs are and not how much the taxpayers' money we can spend or squirrel away on unvetted projects. It was mentioned by a member of the board that everyone has a budget and they need to spend within that budget. As a taxpayer, it is a little hard to budget a constant tax rate with an unknown annual assessment that will most likely increase every year by an unknown amount or a double-digit percentage. In the past, every 2 years, our assessments have gone up. I can only remember one time in the last 40 plus years that our 2-year assessments have gone down. Sorry, but when tax assessments significantly go up, tax rates should be adjusted down to accommodate those increases. In June 2020, I asked the board to consider staying revenue neutral with the rate of 80 cents, as some of the board had proposed instead of the proposed tax rate of 85 cents. As you well know, this board did not vote for the 80-cent tax rate that year. Excuse me. We are once again in a housing bubble where homes are being sold when they are available for 70 to 100,000 over the current county assessments. I know we don't have a crystal ball and future models are only good as the figures plugged into them by the creator of the model. Garbage in, garbage out. We need to be looking at the here and now with the current fiscal situation of the county. Let's face it, with annual assessments, you will now be better able to evaluate your annually increasing revenue stream. Because of increased annual assessments, please consider adjusting the tax rate to match your required budget each year. Yes, costs to operate the county are going up year to year, and your budget will need to increase. Just as taxes, just keep taxes within reason by lowering the rate to 75 cents. This might be the correct number instead of the 79-cent model. In 2020, 80 cents sure was close to 79 cents when the board kept 85 cents. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Weir.
Mr. Max Timberlake, you're next. It looks like you're off mute. Now you're back on mute.
Am I clear now?
Yes, sir.
This is amazing to me that we are talking about making another mistake. Another mistake, time and time and time again. Oh, shucks, we made a mistake. I don't know how many times the Powhatan can put up with this mistake after mistake after mistake. I think it's one of our people at that table is responsible for a lot of those mistakes. I won't say them all, but a lot of those mistakes. And I think you supervisors know who I'm speaking of. Okay. So anytime you're talking about taxes, you need to make sure that the public is aware of what's going on with their taxes, how much you're being asked to pay. And it was interesting because I had not seen that term effective tax rate used in the very early presentations. Okay, so that was misleading. That was misinformation, misleading. And I hope we figure this out so we stop making these crazy mistakes. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Zoom is clear.
Okay, not seeing anyone else come down, we'll close the public hearing. Board members have any comments?
I have just one comment. To echo the citizens' comments tonight, I'm surprised. And I'm not surprised. Because this whole process has been nothing but a train wreck. We started out with the budget where we were told, you were told, there's no tax increase. We didn't exceed the 1% threshold. No need for public notice, no need for a public hearing. That's what we were told. Then we found out that wasn't true. That was pretty amazing to me, shocking. Couldn't understand why that could happen. Then tonight, like a lot of you, I was surprised coming to this meeting. I was notified this afternoon of a problem. And then I didn't know exactly what was going to happen tonight. I was hearing it just like you heard, that there was going to be now a May 18th public hearing. Some of you have said you're embarrassed. You've heard me use that word now for some months. It's not the first time I've used it. Anybody wants to go back, you can look at December 20th meeting. I said it then, and it's been a familiar refrain ever since. It hasn't gotten better. Now, Ms. Weir asked a good question. We did have a deadline with the treasurer to get the bills out. I don't know what that's going to do to the deadline, but right now I'm more concerned, as you heard me speak last meeting, about you being properly informed. Because you need to know, you're the public, we work for you. And if we're having problems with this thing called taxes, that's the most important thing we do up here. Because we are supposed to be good stewards of your money. And if we're not getting it right, or you have any doubts that we're getting it right, and we haven't given you any reason up to this point for you to think that we are getting it right, because we look like the gang that can't shoot straight. And like you in the county, I don't take any pride in that. So that's going to be my comments for the evening. I would like to get clarification to Mrs. Weir's question. But where does this put us, with the billing? And I've said this before, if anything happens where the bills don't go out, if they're incorrect, or we have any problems with the Commissioner of Revenue's office, it's not their fault. Because we haven't given them what they need to do the job. Now, the last thing I want is try to meet a deadline and then for the bills to go out wrong. That's the worst thing we can do, is to make a problem worse. So my first goal right now is to make sure that whatever we do is both legal and that's accurate and that you are getting good information. Because that hasn't happened up to this point. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Other board members?
Mr. Byerly.
Yes, sir, Mr. Cox.
I'd like the board to take a look at, I realize we're not voting on this tonight, at Resolution R 2022-10, that's fixing the calendar year 2022 real estate tax rate. I'd like you to look at the text of it, and I'd like you to go, Mr. Lackney, correct me if I'm wrong, but when we had to hold a public hearing on the tax rate, then everything that is gone on before is moot. And
what state law says is we are mandated to go to the equalized rate unless we go through the proper process to go with the higher rate. So right now, state law mandates 75 cents. And it only upon subsequent action of the board would that 75 cents potentially become something else, 79 cents.
so the last whereas in a resolution, it says, whereas the Board of Supervisors adopted CY calendar year 2022 real estate tax rate at their May 10th, 2021 meeting. That doesn't belong in there, does it?
Well, because it's a whereas, it doesn't mean anything. They did adopt it, so it has no legal import. So you can leave it in or take it out. It doesn't mean anything either way because it has no legal significance to where we are today.
What about when we go down to the last sentence, when I say, I hereby reaffirm? this-
No, it's not reaffirming anything.
Okay, so we need some work on the resolution. Can we get that straight so that we don't have another mistake at our next meeting, please? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir,
It
Mr.
would just say adopt, hereby adopt. Actually, it should say we hereby adopt the fiscal year 2023 real estate rate of 79 cents.
Say that again, Mr. Latchney?
Assuming 79 is the number, I'm not commenting on that. I'm
Right.
just assuming 79, it should say be resolved by the Powhatan County Board of Supervisors that it hereby adopts a real estate tax rate of 79 cents per assessed value for the coming fiscal year. We're not reaffirming anything. We'd be adopting a rate.
Rate has never been set.
Fiscal or calendar year?
Well, it's calendar year. Sorry.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah, but we're not.
Calendar year, right?
Yeah, calendar year. I was thinking fiscal year because of the dates on it, but because we adopted last year's rate, but we're not reaffirming last year's rate. We're adopting. it.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Cox. Thank you, Mr. Latchney. So there will be a public hearing tomorrow night. Tomorrow night will be the budget. Tonight was the tax rate. Would the board be in agreement to not holding a meeting on May the 10th? Because it's going to be a meeting that we can't do anything on that date. We got to go to May the 18th. Are you guys okay with that? So we'll scratch the May 10th meeting. You good with that, Mr. Williams? Okay.
I'd like to hear from the other board members, make sure I'm not missing anything.
I'm looking, Mr. Cox's head's going up and down.
Leaning in,
McClung's over
leaning
there.
into the mic.
Leaning into the mic, ready to
My
go.
peripheral vision, going around the table. I
You
just
good
want
with
to
that,
make
Ms.
sure I
Collins?
was being inclusive
So,
of everyone.
On that evening, we be adopting the tax rate and budget simultaneously on the 18th?
On May the 18th.
Okay, just so for
And
clarification.
we're
We
okay
can't
with
do
that,
both,
Mr.
can we?
Latchney, right?
Yeah, you can't, well, you got to have your public hearing on your budget separate, but we're
We
doing
have to
that tomorrow
adopt-
night. So if you do your budget public hearing tomorrow night, you can't adopt the budget on it.
Yeah, we do budget hearing tomorrow
Right.
night. The budget's fine. It's the tax
Right.
rate that we're,
Right.
which is, they're two separate things. I think most people get that, tax rate and budget. But tomorrow night with the budget hearing, we're fine with that.
You simply, you just can't adopt your budget on the same night that you have. a public
That you
hearing.
have the public hearing. But the tax rate, we can. On the 18th, we
You
can do that.
adopt the same night you have the public hearing.
So on the 18th, you're ready to go, aren't you? On the 18th, we will be able to adopt the budget
And the tax rate.
and the tax rate. Yes, Mr. Cox.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have no problem with the May 10th going away.
Okay.
I see no reason for us to have the meeting tomorrow night on the budget. We don't have to adopt the budget until 6:30. We have a lot of time. I would like to see what the tax rate is before we go playing with the budget. Tomorrow night we're not going to get much accomplished. And we have to do something for the schools in terms of being able to handle their
Contracts. Contracts.
They're going to be able to do their
Contracts.
contracts middle of May.
But we don't have to adopt the budget until 6:30. So we have plenty of time to advertise it and to do it after the tax rate. I see no reason to compress it, that's all. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yep. I think we, and I appreciate that, Mr. Cox. I think the meeting tomorrow night's going to happen. I mean, you can't stop the meeting.
You can cancel it, sir.
People are going to come in here.
People came in tonight and didn't get anything.
Well, they got to come in and speak. They don't want to speak, that's, I think they all wanted to speak. They actually spoke twice, which I appreciate, and I think that's the right thing. and there'll be another opportunity. So I think tomorrow night, we have the meeting. It's as planned. Folks are planning for that to come in here. I don't think we can just stop and cancel it. I mean, we can, of course, but I don't think that's the right thing to do with people that's planning to come in and speak on the budget. And then if we have that meeting, then you have the 18th to where you can settle all things. You can settle your tax rate first and then settle your budget after that.
I'm sorry, Mr. Biley, I've told you how I feel. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay. So then we'll have the meeting tomorrow night on the budget. And then the 18th, we'll do the tax rate and the budget. County attorney comments?
No comments.
County administrator comments?
No comments.
Board comments?
Mr. Biley.
Yes, Mr. Cox.
I just like, it's kind of an interesting phenomenon. If you look at YouTube, the stats we got right after our meeting last Monday said a little over 100 people watched on YouTube. Now the count is 2,000, excuse me, this morning, the count was 2,366. There are a lot of people who are very interested in what's going on in Powhatan County. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Cox. And I agree, there is a lot. I've looked at it probably 10 times myself. Not hearing any other comments, this meeting is adjourned.